Many of our current preconceptions of the world are built through the narratives we hear via the news and social media. I'll explain how this can distort our perceptions of reality and the fallacious conclusions we can come to when reminiscing about the halcyon good old days. The news is incentivized to focus on terrible stories about oppression, inequality, war, crime, and future crises. This plays into our cognition to make us feel like things are getting progressively worse. We are wired to prioritize near and present dangers. News is about what is happening now, not gradual improvements over time. Bad things happen often and frequently. Good news usually only occurs over a long time period. No one ever reports about a place that no longer has an impending crisis. Bad news is always going to happen, and so it's always going to be reported on. Doesn't matter if the frequency has decreased. There's only so much time in a newscast time slot. There's always going to be sick murderers, people losing their jobs, disease outbreaks, communities and individuals being marginalized, police injustice, especially in an age where almost every citizen is equipped with a high-quality camera on their smartphone. Psychologists Amos Tversky and Daniel Kahneman labeled this mental bug of ours the availability heuristic. That is, people estimate the probability of an event, or the frequency of a kind of thing happening, by the ease in which the instance comes to the mind. If something is vivid, gory, distinctive, or upsetting, we'll probably overestimate how often this happens. Such as many people have a fear of the ocean now because of the movie Jaws. The idea of being in a plane thousands of meters in the air, not being able to escape, terrifies people a lot more than people being in a car, even though plane travel is many times safer than car travel.
Marge, what's wrong? Are you hungry? Sleepy? Gassy? Gassy? Is it gas? It's gas, isn't it?
Homer, I've never told you this before, but I'm not a good flyer.
In America, people rank tornadoes, which kill about 50 people per year, as a more common cause of death than asthma, which actually kills about 4,000 people per year. This is because one is more dramatic and makes for better television. This bug, added with it leads news coverage, is painting a very gloomy outlook of what today's society is. But this type of news coverage isn't creating a more informed society, it's really just creating a miscalibration. Another prime example of this, in a poll in 2015, 77% of Americans thought Islamic State militants in Syria and Iraq pose an existential threat to the country. This one-sided negative narrative is making people more anxious, more contemptuous towards others. They're developing learned helplessness and an overall fatalistic outlook on today's current affairs. So why do we so often see things being reported as becoming worse? So no real-world statistics improve monotonically, that is, in a straight line. There's always these upticks along the way. And so the news report's always going to report on those upticks. And in those reports, they'll say that crime has increased this year, but they obviously failed to report that previous years it probably gone down. When you've been watching the news, there may be a story about a horrific murder or a big surge of gang violence that have just occurred the previous night. And you might think to yourself, or might hear someone else say, well, how could they say that violence is going down when this is occurring? You know, this is just a disconnect between the frequency of an event occurring and the event vanishing altogether. In most cities, there's probably going to be enough crime that's occurring to fill the news time slots. And so it makes it look like that the frequency of crime hasn't changed over time, but all it is that the news is interested in reporting the news that does happen, not the gradual decline of those instances occurring. This dissonance is even more pronounced when the egregious act is inflicted upon someone we know or someone we love. You often hear in casual conversation people talk about how society has gone to the pits, that crime has gone through the roof and just injustices seem to be everywhere. And if you say that things have improved over time, you'd be dismissed as idealistic or naive. This is despite data showing the contrary to this perception in almost every measurable way. Only by looking at the facts can we tell to what extent our better angels have prevailed over our inner demons in any given time and place. Our past performance won't guarantee our future success. We will need to study the facts and see what is the most efficacious at alleviating societal problems. And, if any, ancillary problems occur from implementing such a program. We cannot predict what future ideas will have as a society and what effect those will have. Only by error-checking society through statistical analysis will we be able to identify the cause and effects of societal systems and ideally optimize the areas of greatest attention. This will help keep the forces in place that are pushing human well-being in the right direction. A positive trend suggests, but doesn't prove, we are doing something right, and perhaps we should seek to do more of it. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, and if you want to get notified, tap the bell button as well.